There's this one thing. You see, we never, ever do nothing. Nice. Easy. We always do it. Nice. Okay. So we're going to take the beginning of this song and do it. And then we're going to do the finish. Yeah. The way we do. Down here. And we're rolling. Listen to this thing. Left of the down in the city, working for the man every day. And I never one minute of sleep, worried about the way the day might have been. If we'll keep on turning, Mary, keep on burning. And we're rolling, rolling, yeah, rolling on the river. Ain't a lot of place in Memphis, a popular town down New Orleans, but I never saw the good side of the city until I hitched a ride on the riverboat queen. Big wheel keep on turning, proud Mary keep on burning, and we're rolling, rolling, yeah, rolling on the river. Say we're rolling, rolling, yeah, rolling on the river, the river.
Hello everyone. Thank you all so much for coming. I'll wait until everybody kind of finds their seats. Obviously, as you all know, we're here to celebrate the release of our third annual anthology, Out of Time, which we are so excited to finally share with everyone because, as the judges will agree with me, it was such an incredible process this year. We had almost 300 poems entered. It was a lot of incredible work. It was really hard to pick the long list and the short list and the winners, but we're finally here and we're really glad to be able to share that with you all. So we're just going to jump straight into the poetry. I'm also, as you'll all see, holding the anthology, which none of you will get to hold for at least 3 hours, or earlier if you have to dip out before the end of the night, we'll understand. And yeah, it's a beautifully designed cover by a local artist as well. So if you want to know anything about them, you can flick through and find out all their details as well. But yeah, so I'm just going to introduce our first poet. Once we've heard all the poetry, we're then doing the prize giving at the end of the night. If you can't stay till the end because you have to run off and get home because it is a Monday night, it's a school night, then you'll be able to grab your anthology and we'll send out an email celebrating as well. So our first poet tonight is Amy Schofield. Amy is a poet from West Yorkshire whose work explores nature, identity, class and womanhood. Thanks for coming, Amy.
Thanks for having me. I'm really scared, so please don't heckle. This first one, I've only got 3 for you, but this first one is the one that I submitted to the Anthology, and it's about feeling like you're running out of time with your biological clock, but also just being a bit horny on holiday and wanting to enjoy yourself. It's called At the Resort, Not Wanting a Baby. Hot pant of wind, sun, a slack yoke. I daydreamed the bartender's hands in my hair. Cocktail throbs, nuclear blue in hand. At dinner, I'll tip the waiter my name. Dusk ripens, a heavy guava. Paints palms black on the road where women carry nothing but their heels. I've done 1,000 delicious, selfish things. Paired wine with an animal raised in the dark. Fed myself warm pastry off my bare chest. I've seen Paris and researched freezing my eggs. Bargain with the moon, watch her bloom in the black. See how she swells, round and silver as an ache. And then this second one is on that similar theme of like getting older, and it's feeling that I have regularly. It's basically about feeling like you are technically a grown-up, but you don't know what you're doing in your life. And it's called Adulting. We enter our higher purchase loan era. You research cashback ISAs, I make a beeline for the nearest garden centre. We've been really going for it, what with all the interestingly shaped pasta we've bought, kilograms of pitted olives consumed. It's almost believable how we've been repressurising the boiler, having sex in our socks with the lights off. Today, I bled every radiator in the house and applied to drop the curb outside our driveway. Remember when the warning letters piled up on the mat? We made origami hats and took turns playing general. You marched around the room with the paper on your head, barking, "Final notice, final notice." I laughed so much that I cried, and then to my surprise, I found I couldn't stop. End. This next one is a nice cheerful one. It's about failed relationships. And it's called Albatross Have the Lowest Divorce Rate of Any Bird. Whatever I make, I want it perfect. Gravity without fault lines. Who can choreograph a guarantee? The clean blur of albatross feathers. They can fly 5 years apart and still find each other, knocking bills on the cliff like 2 star-crossed bailiffs. It won't be another joint Christmas. It'll be like that day at the coast, the pier shrinking to a pinhead while the kids slept on the back seat. I've never seen fishermen pulling in lobster pots. I've only ever seen their wives gutting catchers in a back room. We've done this lighthouse. I remember climbing all those metal stairs to see the same water differently. You commented on the view, which I thought were a bit pedestrian. But I agreed, the ocean looked pleasant. If we could just get out those creases. End. And then a nice silly one to finish. It's called Stella Took Herself on a Mini Break. Threw on some white slacks and yelled, "Sweetie, we're going someplace special." She barreled out into an early summer, top down, shades like a split coconut, green rippled out on all sides. She booked a big silly suite in a country pile, heavy curtains, plush rugs, a glisten of fussy little mints on the pillow. It was so romantic, the way she led herself, hand in hand through the room, drew her body a bath, warmed a towel, lit candles. The copper tub glowed like a promise. She spent all day in bed with herself, twisted in the sheets. "Can we stay just one more night?" she asked, her fingers entwined, already smiling the answer. For her, she knew she'd do anything. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. So our next artist reading tonight is Freya Jackson. Freya is Freya is a writer from Leeds. She was shortlisted for the White Review New Poets Prize and is winner of a Northern Writers Award. Let's give Freya a massive round of applause.
Thanks, Poppy. So yeah, that's me. I'm going to read the poem that's going to be in the anthology, and I'm going to read a few more after that. So the poem that's in the anthology is called The Time Traveller's Lunch Break. I like to imagine that the man who watches me eat is a time traveller, excavating through the years to discover the way we once lived. How foolish we are, past things, ribbed by the dirty air, the rancorous electric lights. Oops, he says, as he watches me drop my potato wedge into my sauce pot and then fish it out with my plastic fork. There's no use responding. Our lives slip against each other like PVC ghosts. He does not eat. He sits with his legs spread, the easy bend of his thighs marking out the boundaries of his domain. Nothing that is of this time can reach him. He smiles at the cashier without understanding her. Her speech must later be colorized and retranslated like the underwater dialogue of a Godard film. He marks out the shill of the plastic pager calling time on another person's order with a brief tap on the empty table. His distant, twisting hands are uncontaminated by the presence, as those hands of a tenant farmer who 500 years before was present in this same space. They say the present is as much placeholder as place. We form tenses to make our words trace roots through the disorienting plane, as if it were possible to brace our random lives into now or again. Right, so I'm now going to read you some poems which are all from the same sequence, and the sequence is a journey both through kind of the underworld, but also through a kind of sort of transforming and strange version of this world. So I'm going to start you off in the underworld with my first section. Ghosts march beside the water. Without waiting rooms to hold them, they treat the water edge like commuters at train tracks, looking for a sign to explain their long delay. They would like to find a box for complaints, but they are no longer sure how long they have been waiting. When filling out the requisite forms, they sign their names with an X under the designated spaces. Undifferentiated by death, there is no one to meet them. They stand beside lovers without recognizing them. Only the living can tell the difference between one ghost and another. We weep over errant jumpers and shoes and feel a stutter break of grief whenever an advert comes up. Please rate your experience of the afterlife today. Excellent, good, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, poor, not applicable. We wait for 30 seconds to pull ahead of them, drifting on the banks while they cross the water they cannot cross. So the next sections, they're both from kind of the world of the living, and I should tell you that the narrator of this poem is a woman who is still reeling from grief from the death of her father, and this is a poem about her relationship with her mother. I have turned my mother into a minor bird. It is very simple when you know her 3 repeated phrases. I don't know why you want to ruin your body like that. You can't be in love with someone you've never seen in person. I miss him too. Or else the spaces inside the phrases. I miss him without the to. I don't know. Why? With her new beak, she has shattered 3 iPhones. All her anecdotes are repetitions, but the conclusions are fixed. The time we went past his wife's house on the bus, the white garden furniture. With no will, everything went to his new wife. Probate court was very difficult without the correct paperwork. The way he died hanging over us like it always did, but now she flies above it. I am making her an aviary, but I can only send it in bite-sized segments. I make it assemble it herself. Her wings hit the windows. She can no longer recognize herself like this. She screeches, "You can't," at the mirrors. Bird brain, she can no longer remember the parts of him she hasn't disclosed to me. She keeps screaming, "Love, love, love," which then distorts to live, vile, bite, bark, bad, bite, bitch. We speak like this, forgetting the conclusions until we have pecked each other down to the bones. Now this section is all about her father. I am trying to transform into my father by wearing his old coat and shoes, but I can't place his hat at the right angle. While I drink my coffee, forbearing ghosts censor his name out of my emails. What use is misery? I am determined to find joy lurking in the cutlery drawer. I eat blueberries and no-fat yogurt for breakfast. I believe in self-care. Jerking ghosts stick post-it notes on the mirror, but I do not read them. The ghosts and I have created a co-working arrangement. I do not speak, and in return, they accede they are not all versions of my father. I wear my father's old shirt, and the ghosts say nothing. I secede from myself. In the mirror, it is my father who must try and find himself wearing my clothes. I am his reflection. I must do everything he does, but in reverse. At night I get out of strangers' beds and wake up with bars, erection drooping between my legs. In the morning, the ghosts now copy me. I say, I want to die, but with his inflection. When my mother sees me, she calls out his name, mouth ghost thin. There is a parasite in me. I wait to find my crockery broken. Every night after I finish work, I drink until I black out. I host my father inside me. He uses me to ask his wife for a token of her tears. I cannot leave the mirror. My father is tearing me open. I must give birth to myself and drown us in its blood. Now I've not got very long left, so I'm just going to read one more section from this poem, which is going to be back in the underworld. If I can just get it loaded. The dead are separated into groups according to the way they once lived. Do you say sorry to locked doors? How often do you comb your hair? Do you want to set off fire alarms? The process takes a long time because the ghosts no longer understand the same tenses as the designated workers. Sometimes the dead ask for more rigorous judgment systems, and the designated workers give them brightly covered ships of paper. Those who do not take them assent to complaints, still calling out their grievances. There are many doors here, but they all lead to the water. And I've got left 1 minute. I'm going to read a nice little poem that's nothing to do with any of this. It's called Chronostratigraphy. I used to be mentally ill, but now I am normal. All my lovers are imaginary, and all my friendships are sequential. I have entered into love 3 times. I have divided my life in eras. I tell him he can no longer enter my dreams because he belongs to the old era. Every day, I move a day away from him. Last night, I dreamed I was still at work. I have gone past the eras of loneliness, lunacy, lethargy and loss. I have gone past the era of blossoming. I have entered the era of adulthood, mundanity, stability. I must wait for the era of desire. Thank you.
Thank you, Freya. So our next artist is Laura Strickland. Laura lives in North Yorkshire and has been writing seriously for the last 4 years. She is a carer for her son and is currently studying for an MA in poetry at Manchester Metropolitan University. Her poems have been published in Northern Gravy, The North, The Apple Press and Black Cat Press anthologies. Laura runs a monthly online poetry group and is a member of Settle Poets. You can find her on Twitter at LauraS_poet. Let's give Laura a round of applause.
Hi everyone, I'm just going to set up this folder. And I'm just going to put my timer on just so that I'm not here a week next Tuesday, twittering on. Okay. I'm going to take this off as well, is that all right? Perfect. Hi everyone, thanks for coming tonight. What an amazing venue this is. I've never been here before and it's stunning. I've got a few poems for you and I'm going to end on my shortlisted poem. I've never told anyone this, but once, on the way back from Skipton, I saw a wood pigeon cleave its leg on a Range Rover and fly away before its nerves caught up. I think about that bird in the night, or when the light seeps through, when the pieces of me that remain start asking if I've noticed yet. Thank you. The next one's about when a secret that you've kept to yourself comes flying out. The unravelling. I was the overcoat you wore for years, trailing behind you, tripping you up. I pinned badges under my collar so only your heart knew their slogans, and when you held me close to shut out the boys on the bus, you read the letters I hid in my lining. A bird built a nest in my sleeves, threaded with the hair of a girl you passed every morning and patched with pieces of your diary you had cut and burnt in the kitchen sink. I started to smell and people noticed how you never took me off, even when it was time to dance at the Friday disco. My lining grew thinner and I wish I'd warned you before the letter slipped out and the bird flew into a window. Thank you. This next poem, I still can't believe it. I'm still expecting an email to say, Soz, we were wrong, we didn't want this poem, but this next poem's going to be in the next issue of Strix. So if you can support this local Leeds journal, it'd be brilliant. Home that year is a bedsit on Toller Lane, Bradford. Bed to the left, fridge to the right, budget in the corner. TV waits for a repairman, gas meter whirs in tune with the clock on the mantel. Shared bathroom stinks to high heaven, hell, where the men piss on the lino and the women clean it up. I'm off school and Linda from upstairs teaches me rummy. It's like learning to talk again. Suits, decks, melding, sequences, holding on, letting go, but no points for playing snap with the hearts. After I've taken all her pennies, I can sleep, even when the lorries hit the pothole and the street light burns through the nets. Cheers. In Poppy's introduction, she said that I'm a carer, and this next poem touches on the bureaucracy that carers have to go through. This poem's called Pip. I have a letter from you to say I can speak on his behalf. No, he can't come to the phone. No, you can't send him a text. Yes, I'll hold. Yes, I have the reference number from the letter you sent me. Yes, I can hold. His date of birth, it's on the letter you sent me. His address, it's on the letter you sent me. His full name, including any middle names, it's on the letter you sent me. No, he isn't terminally ill. No, he hasn't worked abroad. Do you think he's been selling nightclub tickets in Ibiza via a taxi trip home from school? You could try ringing him on his toy washing machine, or maybe he can explain his condition through the power of the dances he does when he's alone. If you ask him what he can do for himself, he'll list the vacuum cleaners you should buy. Dyson Shark, cordless, Dyson Shark, cordless, Dyson Shark. Or ask him what he wants to be when he grows up. On Wednesdays, it's a vampire hunter. On Friday, it's Winifred from Hocus Pocus, if that helps you understand why he needs a personal independence payment, which incidentally was his nickname before he was born, when he was the size of an apple pip at 5 weeks. Yes, I have a reference number. Yes, it's on the letter you sent me. Yes, I can hold. Thank you. This next poem is in memory of a teacher I had when I was 13, and we never forget a good teacher, do we? So this is for her. This is Keepsake. I find an earring in a box, a clip-on because you said you didn't know if my ears were pierced. I must have lost the other on a bus, or down a sofa, or the bedroom floor of some ridiculous lad. But here, among key rings and badges brought down from the loft, is the one I held on to. The light glancing off it like you're calling me across the years, as if you were telling me not everything has to match. Cheers. It's quite tiring clapping between each poem, isn't it? But thank you. This one is a poem after the Irish poet Rita Ann Higgins, if you've ever heard of her. If not, look her up. She wrote this amazing poem called Some People, which is just blistering. You must read it if you've not read it. So this is after Rita Ann Higgins. No one tells you what it's like to hear a man call your child a little twat in the co-op, to be told your 2-year-old doesn't join in at nursery, to be called out of work for a torn coat, to have your child expelled for meltdowns, to have endless appointments cancelled by professionals to be told off when you miss one, to have scripts for medication you can't pronounce, to be asked why your child is obsessed with washing machines, to have the police called for paint daubs on a neighbour's wall, to be punched so hard in the arm your hand slips on the gear stick, to have a whole hanging basket dropped on your head, to have your house trashed at 2 a.m, to be the one thing standing between home and a secure unit. Cheers. I must just say to everyone in that poem is fine. We are all fine. I usually say that before it. We're all okay. Okay, so we're coming to the end. I'll read this one and then I'll read the one that's been shortlisted. The carry in the title of this refers to Stephen King, although the poem isn't about Stephen King at all. It's not carry, but still I'm ashamed of you in the showers. I hoist you up with a hand on my towel and hop from one foot to the other. I've noticed the slight breach of my shirt buttons, the fear of running too fast, the insistence of wearing oversized jumpers even when the sun cracks my face. The boys call me Dolly, then snap my strap so I stumble backwards. I fold my arms over you and press my body into the wall as they look me up and down. And the girls look too, but chime in with Dolly because they're next, in case they're next. But I imagine 20 years on, and I'm wearing clothes that show you off as if to say we're huge. So fucking what? Thank you. Okay, I'm going to finish with my shortlisted poem. This is Little Speck. I'm at work when spots of blood come between phone calls and rotas. In the doctor's waiting room, I fill in a Reader's Digest quiz. What colour is teal? I'm sent home intact, then up in the night like a farmer ready for lambing. The ultrasound beeps and whirs as I stare at the light above. Laughter in the corridor as I look at the screen and see the blank sack. I expect a TV voiceover to apologise for the break in transmission. Friends say you can have another one, but I want you, little speck, little darling. You have a brother. He came a year after you left. When I look at him, I know your features. When I listen to him, I hear your accent. When people ask me how many children I have, I always answer one, but I'm always thinking two. Thanks ever so much. You've been so wonderful. Cheers. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Laura. Okay, so our next poet tonight is Christopher Moore. Christopher is a writer based in Leeds, and his work appeared in Cringe, Litra, and elsewhere. He's won the Canterbury Christchurch International Poetry Prize and has a mean one-handed backhand. He teaches at Arden University and is bad at chess. Christopher here.
Thank you. Thank you. I love sports, and this isn't a poem yet. This is preamble. Poems are on their way. I love sports. I think that there's a real poetry to the language of sports, especially the way in which it can be hyperbolic and understated. Sport can bend language around itself in a way that not many other things can. For example, recently I saw an England cricketer talk about a controversial stumping. It's out, he said, but I'm a bit devastated by it. And I just love that. I think that's wonderful. I'm a bit devastated. It's impossible. Linguistically, it's impossible. Devastation means total destruction. It is from the Latin word devastus, vaster, which means to lay waste or laying waste. And the DE prefix just means total or complete. It shouldn't be possible to be a little bit destroyed, a little bit totally destroyed. But sport insists that that must be so. It splits absolutes and it forces huge emotions into impossibly small linguistic spaces. And I think that's what poetry does as well. A poem is a very small thing. It's a little bit of a thing. But it's one that can contain explosive and contradictory ideas. So these first two poems are interested in sports in different ways. I hope that, not unlike Stuart Broad's, that by the end you will also be a little bit devastated. This poem is called Tennis for Beginners, and it is for my mother. There you stand on a baseline cracked with weeds, before a net that sags like a drunk's smile. Your racket, weapon of choice, tool of the trade, a chipped relic, had for a palm of change from the RSPCA, with a zip cover thrown in. 2012 and a faded lion on your shorts. I twist the racket in your hands. Looser, I say, hold it looser. You hold the racket the way you held a saucepan on 1,000 Sundays, firm-wristed and true. The vegetables tumble and sweat in their pot. Songs of praise kick through the steam. Night presses the fogged windows, a blush of copper light from under the fume hood. Looser, I say, looser. You hold the racket the way you taught me to hold a pen, and then later a wine glass, with 2 fingers and thumb doing the work and the rest lined up in reserve. It is a grip full of poise and grace and control, though of course I will use it to abandon all three. Looser, I say, looser still. And you hold the racket the way you held my arm when it was skinny and yellow and new. You told me they put me under a big bright light at first, like an interrogation victim, like a scientific specimen, like a Toby Carvery, when I was too quick and too impatient to wait. You swing through the sound that we know from the TV. I shout the ball across the net, watch it spill and spin through the dusky air and the years, embrace you, a child again, before it crests and falls and disappears. Thank you. Easy on the applause, please. I'm on the clock. I'm on a time limit. This next poem is called August, and it is for my friend Nick. You a shout away, cradling a ball of an unfamiliar sport. Your shoulder loosening itself, the last flash of summer caught in your watch face. Me in the yellow grass, shirt darkening at my chest and back, hands open, keeping you in a planchette of fingers and thumbs. Your body forming strange letters as you wind up the throw. Because what is this afternoon if not a cross-eyed attempt to speak to a past? Us, boys in creaking bodies, with perhaps 4 memories of throw and catch between us and scar tissue from decades past, because when 2 men fight, each wears the face of the other's father, and when 2 men drink, the empty space between them is for their fathers. And yet here we are, raising hands in brief and absurd salutes to a sport neither of us knows how to play. Tonight, we confess our pride across lukewarm lemonades and catch ourselves surprised by how little effort it takes and how little time. Thank you. That's enough sport. It's enough sport poems for now. We've got Wimbledon and the Ashes on in the same week. There's a line in The Road by Cormac McCarthy which goes, "He thought each memory recalled must do some violence to its origins." So this is a poem called Drawing Danny DeVito from Memory. It is a participatory poem. If you would like to join in, please do. Let us begin. We start where else but with the head, and allow its soft dome to fill the upper third, a curve so gentle and fundamental, nobody hesitates to stare. Next, the jowls. Let the first one flop onto the page, the others will follow. And between them, the mouth, and so on. We know this face, we all know this face. But see, perhaps the eyes do not quite, quote, sparkle with an impish mischief. There's a footnote here which reads, Time Magazine, July 2001 issue. And so, forgetting ourselves, we hide the eyes behind heavy glasses and realize with distress that we have drawn a balding Buddy Holly. And perhaps the teeth are train tracks and perhaps the lips are all wrong, and there is no sign at all of the, quote, mock wolfish grin once noted in a profile for The Guardian. And the ears are curls of raw meat, and the chin is a collapsed souffle. And we have painted over this face so many times in our minds that it is gone, buried like a fossil, and only the residue remains. And we know this face. We surely know this face. And so we ruin the page. None of the lines we have drawn are the right ones, and we are not sure if we have ever noticed the shape of the nose, the chisel tip of the philtrum, and still less the dull, sad shapes that we were sure would become shoulders and a shirt collar when we remembered. Thank you. Finally then, there's a poem that brings me here. It is an enormous privilege to stand here. Congratulations to the rest of the shortlistees. Thank you all for coming. Part of me did think there might be 2 people and a dog. The 2 people that I brought with me, so thank you. to say nothing of the dog. Thank you also to our judges, Janet and Nasser and Matthew and Poppy Lee. The idea of you reading my work gives me heart palpitations, but perhaps that's okay, given the subject of this last poem, which is called Valentine's. Here's one. The day Mr. X brought a cool box of sheep hearts to class and gave us each a knife as blunt as a tongue with which to worry and fidget them apart. It was rumored that a boy in the year above had pressed his lips against a pair of sheep lungs, breathed his deep kiss, and then with a wet slap, sent them exhaling across the lab at head height. The heart was different, however. I remember the greyish weight of the heart, blameless in its Tupperware chill. I wanted to look after the heart, wanted to keep it in my pocket and feel its heft, dense and smooth as a pebble, as a marble statuette of itself. When I cut into the heart, I found only more heart. As a small boy, I learned that a snail shell does not contain a snail-sized armchair and rug, nor a miniature kettle sweating in a snail-sized hearth below portraits of grandmother and grandfather snail. Inside the snail, there is only more snail. Inside the heart, there is only more heart. We kissed on your living room floor, smell of antiseptic still on our polos, your parents gone and knowing more than they let on, kissed in the way that the TV had taught us, a blunt tongue in your mouth and a small grey muscle thrashing in my chest that does not think or feel, and which does not contain a single string, cog, gear, or wheel, and which was crammed so full of itself that there was no space or room inside it for hurt. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. So we're going to have one more poet before we have a break. And this next artist is, if I can find her name in my book, Alexandra Corin Tachibana, which I can't find your bio, I'm so sorry. Can we give Alex a massive round of applause, everyone? Hi everyone, thank you so much Poppy for inviting me here this evening. It's such a beautiful venue and congratulations to all the shortlisted and longlisted poets, and thank you so much to the judging panel for listing my poem. So I'm going to begin with the shortlisted poem and then I'm going to read a few poems from my collection that I have here, but I'll say a little bit more about that later. So the name of the poem is When the Wind Blows. When the wind blows. They say boys get their height from their mother. Your mum has a tiny frame and owlish eyes, grey rings beneath. You joke about how she gets her barnet done every week, has tried every stylist in Tid. At the time we weren't supposed to be shaking hands, she hugged me. Then, gleefully pulling out the dishwasher, told me it had never been used. At 70, she did a psychology A-level, was the only one with a handwritten script. She and I share a love of Merlot and of her son. They say men choose a woman like their mother. She's fragile, could never take a shower because of claustrophobia, and now in hospital, liquid morphine because she can't swallow a pill. When the back pain began, they thought it was from dancing at the village hall. The doctor says the cells are like the tiny parachutes on a dandelion clock, spreading out, looking for somewhere to latch onto. Once, When your mum and dad were learning to dance, chaperones separated them for sneaking a kiss. We're Pat and Don, was how your dad introduced her. And they looked like that unsuspecting couple in the Raymond Briggs cartoon novel, When the Wind Blows. Poor Dad, you say. He's worried about cleaning the house. Thanks very much. I'll read something a little bit more up-tempo next, perhaps. So I'm going to read a few from my collection. I'm still quite excited because it's my first collection that came out last year, and it's called Sing Me Down from the Dark. I don't know if you can see, there's some beautiful cherry blossoms on the cover because some of the poems are set in Japan. I lived in Japan for 10 years, from my early 20s to early 30s, so a little while ago now. And the first poem is set in Hamamatsu in Japan. It's called Wakeboarding in Hamamatsu. And just in case you don't know, a wakeboard is like a mono ski. And believe it or not, I used to do this. I used to be pulled along on the back of the jet ski doing wakeboarding. Wakeboarding in Hamamatsu. You zip me into a pink and white wetsuit, squashing my boobs. It belonged to Saiichi's ex, half American and 173 centimetres tall. You cup my head. It's smaller than a Japanese. How young I look in my summer cap. You attach me to a board, pull me by a cord behind your jet ski. I weigh more than the 45 kilos of a Japanese lady. Struggle to balance. Your friends applaud as I plummet into the Tenru River. How lucky they found me a wetsuit. We drink Asahi, eat mackerel round a disposable barbecue. Sister-in-law, Machiko, tells a story about your ex. Her friend, a high school teacher, who she says was kawaii. Pretty. She knows I understand. Cleaning up after lunch is a group activity, but there are too many hands. I'm left to observe, bowing, thanking each other for taking care of one another. People are hesitant to leave first. Bow again, say, sumimasen, thank you, sorry, apologies. Even though we're in Crocs and shorts, have peed in the ashtray and peeled off sodden wetsuits so awkwardly behind car doors. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm not used to all this clapping, it's very kind. The next one is Heart of a Japanese. Your dad called me Musume, daughter. He liked to take me out to dinner. He had fish killed from the tank for my sashimi. Your mum made me sushi at home. It pleased them to watch me eat. Kokoro ga nipponjin desu ne. You have the heart of a Japanese. In a family diner, I concentrate on my curry rice. Tomorrow we'll go to City Hall on your bike to divorce. Your mum dribbles. You wipe her, soothe her with jokes. I watch her stroke-ravaged face crumple to cry into her donburi rice bowl. Thank you. So as I mentioned, the collection's called Sing Me Down from the Dark, and I did lots of singing at karaoke in Japan, and the next poem is a bit of a love song to Japan, really. Farewell to karaoke. And I'll just add one thing, actually. There's one Japanese word it might be useful to know, and that's gaijin. Gaijin is foreigner. Gai means outside, and jin means person. Farewell to karaoke. I don't eat giant Miho strawberries or Fuji apples dressed in polystyrene doilies like tutus. And I don't spot tanuki fox dogs at dusk as I leave work. I don't buy sour plum rice triangles folded in seaweed from the conveni, or float in hot springs at ryokan inns, eat baby sardines in the Shizuokan summer. I don't boil onsen eggs in volcanic lakes or ski Nagano slopes with Otoro-san, nor do I sleep in the passenger seat beside my husband-to-be until we reach the resort. I don't duet endless love with snack bar host Kazuma for strangers sipping oolong high. And I don't have a bottle of shochu on the drinking shop shelf, my name tag in katakana. I don't ride on Harleys to love hotels, or barefoot in a box, learn Okinawan song, Nada Soso, pretending to be Natsuka Rimi. And I don't sing. Great tears are spilling at the top of my gaijin voice. Thank you. So I think I've got time to read a couple more, and then we can all go and have a nice drink. So this one's called Body Language. It's written in lockdown, and it's about an Anglo-Japanese relationship. Body language. You rub up behind me as I wipe the Sainsbury's shop, like that time babysitting when Bruce, the randy Labrador, stood on his hind legs and whined. I was 14 and had to shut him outside. He scratched at the door. As I leave for my lockdown walk, you say, "Ecchi, kangaite ne?" Ecchi, horny, aroused. 4 months ago, I took down our wedding photos. That 31-year-old on Waimanolo Beach didn't feel like me. I put up a painting of turbulent waves by Bamborough Fort. The trigger was an argument about Machiko, your sister-in-law. You defended her awfulness to me because she is Japanese. And the lack of sex, what do you expect when you've chosen to sleep on a futon in the spare room? And going back to the wedding photos, it took you a month to notice. You said you were so sad you could write a poem. You say I am no longer sharp, a loan word for slim. Yet I thought the Japanese loved the notion of shiawase buteri, plump, happily married women. When I lose a few pounds, you say, "Ijin ni natta ne." You've regained beauty. Once upon a time, you were all I could see. I watched you sleep. And the day Scottish Maggie died, lovely Mad Maggie who made me Tupperwares of butter tablet, you wouldn't shut up, kept saying sorry. But you met her only once. I wanted to shout, "Shut the fuck up!" Say, Sensei, says the Japanese are good at carrying boxes when you move house. Today, as I leave this house, you ask with a teenagerish grin if I'm having an affair. In the exact same way you ask if I've sorted the recycling. Thank you. Thanks for listening. I'm just going to read one more, which is the title poem, Sing Me Down from the Dark. In the thickets of San Lorenzo Park, you've finally found your nightingale. The nightingale, rich in song, but mousy in colour. Dull, something I'd never call you. When we met on Zoom, you hid behind a Moroccan mask because you're all about the daft. Yes, you said, my wife is Spanish. There's 1,600 kilometres between us, a fraction of the 4,800 kilometres the nightingale flies from West Africa. The boy nightingale serenades the migrating girls from the thorny dark. It's just astonishing, you say, how they outsing the skylark. Do you think it's a conscious thing to shake up their repertoire? I consider whether it deliberately changes its tune. We talk of me and you, of growing into each other, of gathering mutual points of reference, of a long East Lothian weekend with a local malt. And I think of how once these nightingales, caged for their song, would kill themselves dashing against their rails, trying to fulfill their migratory urge. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you to all of the poets in the first half. It was really wonderful to hear your poems in person after reading them for the past 4 months straight. So we're going to take a quick break, 15-20 minutes, and then we'll get going with the next set of poets. Thank you.
Sometimes I feel like throw my hands up in the air. I know I can count on you. Sometimes I feel like saying, Lord, I just don't care. You got the love I need to see me through. Sometimes I feel like saying, Lord, I just don't care. You got the love I need to see me through.
Hello, everyone. So I'm just going to wait as people mill around and take their seats. I hope everybody's got a drink and had time to grab a smoke or pop to the loo. We're going to jump straight back into some more poetry as well now. And our first poet of this half is Abby Nolan. Abby is a soon-to-be recent English graduate. She loves contradictions and strange combinations, an example of this being her pet rabbit called Scooby. Her writing often takes inspiration from her surroundings, especially things that would be considered dull. Inspiration is in everything, even in paint samples and car parks. Let's give Abby a massive round of applause.
Hi, thanks very much. I've got 3 poems to read for you. They were all written based on things I saw out of the window in the alleyway that my flat was above. So, a beautiful place, as you can probably imagine. This first one is called Mouse's Back, which is named after a paint colour. Okay. Oh, to be a pest in your own back garden, taken from you, worse even, destroyed. Your crannies of cranberries and nooks suffocated, the greenest thing a plastic bin to throw yourself away in. That's it. Fall right into the bin they gave to you. It looked just like that bramble bush that used to sit right there. A prime piece of real estate uprooted for a prime piece of real estate. A spacious family home, now a modest 2-bed semi. Probably an Airbnb in a year or so. Thanks. This next one's called Pale Hound. Again, it's another paint colour, which looks a lot like sunrise or sunset. So that's where this one came from. The sun rises equally upon alleys and office buildings, bathing in fleeting sweet twilight. The pale hound works through cement walls of disuse, hollow frame, nimble, fugitive. His feet quiet on cobbles cold from moonlight, he winds through accidental trees, brushing sickly weeds with warmth, willing life. He takes care along antiquated tracks, rust reclining in his presence, as he lopes between the thistles and blackberries the sun. Thanks. This last one is called Old Lady Fingers, which isn't a paint colour, which is not very surprising. I don't think it'd be very nice. Yeah, so slow, turning heads, don't follow from up to down, the stubborn green tendrils in winds that clouds their view raised. They're concrete, growing twins, look close, start neat, ending with rubble bits and creaking winter fingers strum along cage foundations raised. Slow, they're turning heads, growing, twins, don't look, follow close, from start up neat to ending down with the rubble stubborn bits green and tendrils creaking in winter winds fingers that strum clouds along their caged view foundations raised. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abby. So this next poet is Emma Connolly Barkland. Emma is a yogi, writer and poet based in Yorkshire, England. Her poetry has been published with Free Verse Revolution Literary Magazine, Quill Keepers Press, West Trestle Review and Corentia Press, and others. Pushcat Prize nominated, Emma had a residency at the Bronte Parsonage Museum, was named one of Ilkley Poetry Festival's New Northern Poets 2022, and her collection The Ridings is published with Bentley. Let's give Emma a round of applause.
Hello everyone. It's really nice to be back here. Last time I was here was my first time I'd ever performed actually, last year at the festival. I'd never used a microphone before. So I just want to thank Poppy, Jack and the other organisers for inviting me, and big congratulations to all of the long-listed and shortlisted writers and the winners tonight. I just think it's lovely. I've just been loving everybody's poetry, all so different. So, where are we going to start? So I'm going to start off with my collection, The Ridings. The Ridings as in Yorkshire before Thatcher carved everything up, as well as Riding the Waves of Grief. So I started writing 5 years ago when my mum died, 2018. During the editing of the collection, my dad died suddenly in January, so I made the decision to have my parents on the cover. There's also my grandma and me as a bairn on the cover, and the Yorkshire landscape. So I'm going to read a couple of poems from the Ridings first of all. The first one actually is the only one that's not really personal. It's about my Hungarian partner, who you might see kind of wandering around. She's hiding now, but she's got a big camera. And it's about her being misgendered in Leeds railway station toilets. It started to do my head in, so I wrote a poem. And I also thought, well, she identifies as she and her. What if she was non-binary? What if she was in transition? Is it okay to call people out in public places? I don't think so. So this poem is called Cis. Is this high enough? Further back? All right. So, cis. I'll just piss out here then, shall I? Make your life easier. Then you need never chime. I think you're in the wrong toilet. According to what, may I ask? A, my appearance. B, your confident judgment of my gender. C, your sense of male and female according to your own socialization. D, your sense of how the world should operate. E, your comfort zone. F, your right as a self-satisfied majority to step into my business. All answers to be recorded, systemized, ratified. And if I am non-binary in transition, what then? Should I go in the gents and then the ladies to even things out? 50-50? Or I'll just piss out here then, shall I? Or maybe I should crawl back to the edges of existence where you don't need to think about me. Only 1% of us is the best forgotten. Unbound, a prototype, blueprint of how to live fearlessly, ceasing to transmit a chimera incarnation of a hologram self. Why should I tiptoe, cringe and explain my actions to you? 1% of us here who wish to mother, teach, cradle and hold, but you have to be human to do that. And somehow the labels accumulate. Paper mache binding of print, times Roman wrap around a human soul till choked. You give me no option than to go plural, they, them, so I can gather the selves you negate and deride. There is power in numbers to blow a hole through the conceit that little boxes can hold us. And this is all, to walk undetected without recrimination. He felt, she felt, this pronoun tap. Every time I visit a railway station restroom, as you walk in nonchalant, I wait for your eyes to alight on me and see the difference, indistinct, but there. You frame your words and I hunch, slink with trepidation and defiance as you give the lie to my right to be in this grimy stop-off, when all I want is to enter careless and complacent like you, marooned in the behemoths of he and she, gents, ladies, essentialistic semaphores, archaic as a doily, the complacency of being cis, where your face fits. And no one debates whether you have the right biology to enter and we without challenge. Simmering hostility, fear of the other, as you've been designated in antiquarian chests which hold truths and absolutes. Protected from hate by law, but what of insidious side-eye judgments, bulwarks and pillars challenging my existence, revulsion pouring off their shoulders, sulphurous and mustard gas, miasma of fear which stings me, not them. She wanted to teach. The courage it took to go ahead and find the truth of herself beyond the assumptions of colleagues and friends. Shoehorned identity when all they felt was an urgent proclivity to align. No, a hunger, a need to be seen as me, appreciated in the totality of meanness. You whittle and reduce, so it behoves me to stand my ground. 'Cause ones will come after, more vulnerable, filled with self-loathing, more doubtful, be scarred by this hidden discrimination, then maybe, finally, things will change. A restroom's a restroom. We all do the same, we bleed the same, the forms will change. Why does my gender, my orientation matter in the workplace, for the online course, for entering this gym? Don't you see the intimidation, where sometimes it is best to stay home, away from unrealistic expectations, where my doors are not labelled, and my dog sees me through love's eyes? 'Cause ones will come after. On the train, shoulder blades bristle with self-awareness, stepping now through darkened door, rustle of shopping bags, taint of urine to the olfactory. There you are, mighty of voice and opinion. I slice through, intent on my business, which you have no part of. Thank you. Thanks. I need to lie down after that. So the next one is called Moat's Float. It's kind of another, like a pandemic poem. I've got OCD, so being told to wash my hands a lot freaked me out during the pandemic. Moat's float, imperceptible but inhaled. How far do moats float? Ocular debris, exhaled dust, in a tower block, in a packed theatre, in an outdoor festival, from my dentist's mouth, from the man jamming his trolley into my backside because I'm dressed for an asbestos factory. Rubber-lipped fish goggles keep flotsam particles away. Gloves, double mask. Goggles. Close to the shoals, shutters down, Prachaharik unknowing. I don't care. Don't care what you think. What you think about bleaching the walls because the snow's too bright on a snow day. I don't care. Don't care what you think. What you think about hoovering a yard because the bits congeal in corners. Spews out more particles than it sucks in, don't look. Walks past my window and laughs at my hijinks. Madcap love and light upside down on a yoga mat. Crumbs and hair unsettle my zen-like stare. Don't mock me or sneer, because I don't care what you think in a blink, because this dust builds an avalanche inside me. And now, moats float, and breath is no longer my friend. Thank you. Next one is also from the Ridings. It's a poem that's still hard for me to read. A lot of it's hard for me to read, obviously, death of my parents and all the rest of it. This is a poem called Bad Linen, inspired by a painful memory of a visit to my mum before she died, and Michael Faber's poem for his wife who died of cancer in his collection, Such a Simple Thing I Could Have Fixed, Undying, a Love Story. On Dad's side of the bed, it needed changing, creased and stained, a rectangle of broderie anglaise around cotton from the 70s. Long overdue, an air of neglect, a room imbued with complan and ashy stale tea. Mom, I came here, past the blood on the wall, past the human traces, to see the spaces where you used to be. Now, sad creature, inert like paper, and he, blithe and denying the state of things. Could it be any sadder? Could it be any sadder? To see bad linen dashed with flecks of blood and complan. Sad that I come only now as you shriveled to the toxic mass of all that shady medicine. Pillowcases, antimacassars carry human traces. The soil is left, but all I saw was neglect. So I changed it, held your dense pain head in the bowl of my sun-tanned hand, and exchanged bad linen for good. Thank you. So I've got a collection coming out on the Bronte sisters. I'm obsessed with the Brontes, obviously being from Bradford. I grew up in Bronte country, and me and my mum used to visit the parsonage on the 86 bus, from the Oakworth bus, from being a little girl. So I wrote a collection on the Brontes called Hymns from the Sisters. It's going to be published by Quarentia Press in October. So this is a poem from it called Rupture. Inspired by the story Patrick Bronte, father of the Bronte sisters, told about his son Branwell and two youngest daughters, Emily and Anne, being caught up in the Crow Hill explosion of 1824. Emily was just 6 at the time. I didn't bleed because the red already darned my soul. I could have cried out, clawed earth bog under my nails and strafed the pit, impaling worms like a kittiwake. But I stopped. Plum dense, the roseated falcon who sank longing into valour. Her eyes lens a portal. So I just could not will this into being a catastrophic event that smacked of fear, not with the thrill of inert gases shifting around my ears. Silk shoes squelched in the moor's rupture is all, and I, in rapture. I kept it close, this explosion, returned pious seeming as a sexton, and picked grit from my crossed tooth. Thank you. Second to last one. This one's a bit mad, really. It's based on a walk after Christmas dinner and an encounter my dad had with a woman who thought she shouldn't be parking where he was parking. It's called Eat Your Banana. We'd gone for Christmas dinner to the Raggolds Inn, akin to the Wild West, where some kale-eyed guy had floundered, shot through his eye, and so we'd gone for turkey and pigs in blankets, logically. An outpost at a crossroads, the wind was nithering. Instead of heading home, he took us off to Ogden, me in heels and his high-vis coat, and all the rest of the stragglers seeking a dappled body of water as we ought to walk off the festive scran. We couldn't park, no space. Then there she ran. His window down, UB40 blaring out. Her head was in the driver's window, and frame a Yuletide guillotine. As we gazed incredulous at this grey-haired lady in boots and mac. You can't park here. I've been coming here for years. I say you can't park here. I've been coming here for years. I say you can't park here. I've been coming here for years. And he had. He went where he liked, off-road, exploring, adventure, his calling. So he knew all the back roads and spaces for parking. What's it to you? Came bubbling up. A rustle of the high-vis coat, my hackles up. Mind your own business, as my mascara stuck in glue-eyed solidarity. I mean, what the fuck? She glared, affronted. Then out it came, anemic yellow, like cat's piss in snow. She took a bite, and with a gobful said it again, in case we'd missed it. You can't park here. Revolting, mashed banana on broken crowns and root canals. It was too much, so disgusted and rough, he said, eat your banana. You can't park here, I've been coming here for years. I say, you can't park here, I've been coming here for years. Eat your banana, eat your banana. She withdrew, banana and fizzog, like a slug's tentacles tasered with salt. A whip it down a rabbit hole, she fled in her hunters as he smirked, got in gear and drove off. Thanks. Oh, is that what you meant? Dropping stuff. Okay, this is my last poem. This is the one that's in the anthology, it's long listed. I wrote this 2 weeks after my dad died, after days and days of going through all these pictures and photos. I'm in the middle of writing my first full collection, inspired by him. And it's called On the Grace of Strangers. I fell down the cracks trying to reach you, off the ship where the breadfruit bounced, on the waves as your dark skin braced for the chill blains, and a wisp of a lass taught you how to smoke and gloat that the skinheads couldn't have your girl. More than a gas fire's mottled bars kept you warm in Yorkshire. Fingers 15 years away from calluses and manual labour, 21 years away from stripping cable for copper in your garage with your daughter whose skinny legs chase sticks down Bradford Beck. On the grace of strangers, I saw you hide your eyes and keep smart with your mum Rosa's sewing kit. 6 years away from your mother-in-law's button tin and lard-baked apple pie. Why so fast? Catch your collar from the future, feel your tash and the drum of your fingers, impatient for what's next. What's next? The town hall has a museum for the plods who chased you, not them, down Lum Lane. Queer to pay to view the mothballed costumes of your antagonists who found out you could sprint, dart, decoy back to a miner's terrace with your dear ones waiting and a yard full of rats. Thank you. Thank you. If you're interested in my collection, I've got some copies with me. It's actually in that pink bag there from the 80s, which had my badge collection in. I recently got it out of my dad's loft and got covered in God knows what, asbestos. But anyway, the books are safe inside there, so if you want one, you can get one. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Emma. I was planning before tonight to write down all of the bios, but I thought, do you know, it'd be really nice to read them all from the anthology. But you know when you open a new book and all the pages just stick together? So it's taken me a little bit longer to find them all than I was expecting. But our next artist is Christina Dippers. Christina co-runs Rhubarb at the Triangle in Shipley. She co-edited Rhubarb's 2022 anthology Seconds, which was featured in Carl Ruman's Poem of the Week blog for The Guardian. Her poetry has placed in competitions from Bentley Publishing, Black Hat Poetry Press, Seafront Cottages and the Ilkley Literature Festival Open Mic, and been shortlisted in the Ginkgo Prize and last year's Leeds Poetry Festival competition. Let's give Christina a massive round of applause.
Hello, what a fantastic evening of poetry it's been. Thanks for having me back again for the second year in a row. I feel very privileged. I've just got two poems for you this evening. The first one is brand new. I just wrote it last week, so you're the very first people to hear it. And it is about one of my absolute favourite places in the world, just down the road. This is called The Picture House. The newspapers say this is the only cinema in the world where gaslight is literal, where it still means soft focus and the darkness is gentle with us. It sleeps behind an extravagant red curtain. Time is irrelevant, but the Art Deco clock above the fire escape is essential. The popcorn is delicious. It tastes like the circus. From the outside, I can never fathom how this end terrace can swallow queues the length of Queen Street or contain all those faraway galaxies. Its magic is the unexpected. Here, in this labyrinth of back-to-back red brick, graffiti tagged by lads who don't dream of being artists, who only write their names over and over. We lived here in our 20s, in a north-facing rental with so little sunlight, our plants died. We came to seek refuge in black and white double bills and tea on the balcony. I loved Some Like It Hot and The Apartment, the fuzzy ends of the lollipop and the way Fran says shut up and deal with such tenderness. Cue end credits. I know. Why gas lamps were added and why restoration workers found hat pins among the ticket stubs and ice cream cups swept under carpets years ago. I know. But picture the Wes Anderson version, with Tilda Swinton as a projectionist prone to fits of nostalgia and technicolor, and us as two mesmerized kids. Thanks. It's a really gorgeous cinema. If you haven't ever been, you should absolutely go. It's just reopened after a 3-year refurbishment, and it's as lovely and magic as ever. So yeah, go to the picture house. My next poem and my last poem, I guess is another attempt to sort of write time over place. I'm a geographer, and I'm interested in the way that sort of like different layers of time can coexist in spaces, and try to sort of hold that in some of the things that I write. So that's kind of where this poem came from. And just to say, if you listen closely, or indeed if you buy a copy of the anthology, which I'm sure is going to be wonderful, I can't wait to read it, then not only will you be getting lots of fabulous poetry, but there are directions to a cursed mansion ruin in the woods above Saltaire, which is sort of 15 minutes on the train from here. So that's definitely worth checking out, right? So another great reason to buy the anthology. This is called How to Approach the Glass House at Milner Field. You have to imagine the proud stamping of horses as you make an entrance up Higher Coach Road. Where it bends to the left, there's a fraying rope swing hanging like a dare. Keep walking. You'll need to look closely. The path that leaves the track is barricaded by a fallen tree, fortified by nettles, muddied and slippery. Sturdy shoes are essential. Late August is best if you can tolerate a needling. Stumble through the woods until you reach a clearing. It's further than you'd expect, though not by much. You can just about piece it together from empty plinths and toppled columns, grand entrances to vanished rooms. The mansion built for titans above the factory clamour that made their fortunes. Pull back the canopy and see the valley when the trees were young, not overrun with ivy, before time and ruin came for this place and the hung guard took aim at whatever was left. Clamber up through the rubble, over the rumour of cellar doorways, to the mosaic floor, clinging by its teeth to the soil underneath, intricate and stubborn. Find its edges traced in curbstone, solid evidence of shape and size. Wait for the trick of light and, should glass or a face appear, resist the urge to break this fragile spell or uproot proof that you are here. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Christina. So our next artist is Stevie Kilgo. Stevie is a poet who writes about working class culture and his own upbringing in a southern town. He's published by Broken Sweet Books and has just completed a PhD in working class representations in contemporary poetry. He currently lives near an airport in Yorkshire. Let's give Stevie a massive round of applause.
Thanks for having me. I think you and Jack are trailblazing warriors of peace and poetry, so well done, everyone. It's really good. Round of applause for everyone who put this on. So I'm here on my own tonight because my family were hoping that I'd follow in the footsteps of my family, which was being a drug dealer or a mechanic that does MOTs over the phone. But I'm actually a poet, I suppose. I'm going to read a few short ones from PhD. Once I read these, I'm then going to shred these and put them in my pillow, I think, so I never have to see them ever again. It's 4 years of tears and heartbreak. The poems here sort of tackle the idea of, the performative nature of toxic masculinity and how it's a sort of role that we take on subconsciously, even though it's outdated. So, no titles, and please don't be offended by anything. A man has his arms folded, watching two other men spit in lager breath. He knows he could take them both, if he wanted. One man is choking the other now. The man's girlfriend is crying about how purple he's turned. And I thought this was how love was made. I even wrote about it in my diary. Okay. You must be at the party to turn down the music. And I never buy trousers online. They could be the wrong size, poor quality, get lost in the post like my dad, or fall apart in my hands like my goldfish. And I never do online dating for these same reasons. I told you they were short. Okay. I'm growing a new manhood. It will soon spoil. A pageant of biceps taken down like the flinching of sunflowers in winter. It may grow again next year to new lights and heat. My brother is a young cardinal, and his eyes are full of sex-bed aromas in small violent hours. We both inherit our great-granddad's vascular anger at the Irish problem. Still angry at the famine, with fists tight like the skin on the back of a runner's knee. But I'll always return home, and I'll plait my daughter's knotty brown hair, which she gets from me. And we'll paint our nails in rainbow happiness, which I get from her. I also stole these little tabs from her as well. Another dream now, one where I'm stretching like Narcissus out towards my own reflection, and I carry the disappointment of 10 women on every digit. My mum stands on a plinth, waving a flag with my face on it. I stand in an ornate Japanese garden. I'm decorated in faded blue ribbons. Cry shaving my own head. Like a wrestler from 1994, like a Mitchell brother from 1998. And if I could run in this dream, or any dream, run away from the awkwardness, I'd buy some better trainers and lube up my thighs so you can hear my jeans changing gear. Okay, this is the one that I submitted here, and it's a bit different in this collection of torture that I've been through. It looks back at the nostalgia that we all crave from our childhood and how we wish we could go back and do things or change things. And there's that kind of feeling I've always grown up with, that things were better when you were younger, even though they necessarily probably weren't, you know. But we all crave that nostalgia. And I think the idea that this idea of toxic masculinity is still very much vibrant in white working class culture, which I'm from. And I've always said that really deep down we just want to hold a mum's hands and watch Mamma Mia or something. If I held my mother's hand and she held her mother's hand and she then held her mother's hand and every one of us followed this process of discovery, we could meet again on the first day of school, or amongst all the original cries of birth, hands gripping the wire fences surrounding the playgrounds. We could say things to each other like, no, don't do that thing. Do the other thing you were going to do. And everything would then smell like freshly turned soil. Thank you.
Thank you, Stevie. So our next poet is our final poet of the evening, and then we'll take a very quick break, grab a drink, and then I will announce the winners. So our final poet is Ali Murphy. Ali is a family and systemic psychotherapist and has worked in mental health for the NHS for over 25 years. She has enjoyed writing poetry all of her life, and for the last few years has participated in regular poetry workshops with Jill Lambert and Mark Connors. She has had poetry occasionally published and is wanting to focus more on this now no longer working full-time. Let's give Ali a massive round of applause.
thank you, everybody. Phew, finally. Gosh, I've really enjoyed listening to all the poetry that's come before me right now. And thank you to Poppy and to the judges and for everyone that's come tonight. I'll start with the shortlisted poem. The first 5 poems are inspired by my parents. The last 3 are a little bit different. They are all quite short. If you could not clap in between, because I've timed it perfectly for 10 minutes. I practiced all yesterday afternoon. So you can clap or cry at the end, but save your clapping for now. Thank you very much. So this first poem that's in the anthology was after a poem by Alex Reid, who's a friend of mine, and he wrote a pantoum, and I didn't even know what a pantoum was, but I saw his, and I thought, oh, I'll have a go at one of those. So this poem's called 3 Cedar Close. She comes home before the bell, sensing letter found. Father shouting, "Who's the happy daddy?" Mother shushing, closing windows, curtains drawn. She stares down at the brown carpet. Father shouting, "Who's the happy daddy?" She throws a cold cup of tea on the embossed walls, stares down at the brown carpet. Mother tells her, "You can't possibly keep it." She throws a cold cup of tea on the embossed walls. Father paces, pours a whiskey, sits in his chair. Mother tells her, "You can't possibly keep it." She didn't want them to know. It was her secret. Father paces, pours a whiskey, sits in his chair. Mother purses her lips, wipes the wallpaper clean. She didn't want them to know it was her secret. Standing still, the sitting room is closing in. Mother purses her lips, wipes the wallpaper clean, whispers, "I will sort it all out, take you to the doctors." Standing still, the sitting room is closing in. Sensing letter found, she comes home before the bell. Thank you. The importance of iron. I'm 18, at uni, eating liver. Mouth open, I regurgitate generations of bile. Nana Florrie told Mum to feed Dad liver once a week. We swallowed it down with onions every Tuesday. Nana was 4'11" with fierce breasts hanging down to her floral apron. She hit Dad with a rod every Friday. Red welts hid chapel best. Dad ran at 17, lied about his age, said he wanted to kill Nazis. He did not eat liver in Albania or Italy, but he did push a dagger through solid blood. I am 18, at uni, eating liver, trying to be good. Florrie is 81, in a care home, not knowing her son when he visits every Sunday. Dad at 6'1" and 61, sits measuring time. She will die in 3 years at 4'9". Bill's hands. The left one caned for righting wrong, the right one trained to pull a trigger. Survived the war but later lost thumb and index finger to an unguarded wood saw. Both cradled his girls, played piano on their giggling ribs, worked too many hours, steered too many miles, clung to the rungs of too many water towers. Tickled river trout, taught his daughters to swim, tended tomato vines, gooseberries, brewed bubbling bramble wine, held smooth his father's pocket watch, cast lines out to sea, caught cod, crab and thyme, set down so many pints the dog got extra dinner, pinned love and sorry to the mirror. Sometimes he gave her flowers, made her tea and toast in bed, cupped her face, held her waist, dancing to Glenn Miller, and in that moment they felt forever. Clearing the house. I open the walnut wardrobe, find decades-old rhubarb wine. The sediment has formed alien embryos, all limbs and eyes. I shake them down the drain, listen to their cries. The first care home lost your wedding ring, the second one, your life. You'd fallen again, face concave, purplish, your breath like sand, hands cold bone. Your shoes piled high at empty boats, banked up on the shore. I fill 2 bin bags, less worn one's charity. I choose blue patent for your coffin feet. Shillings and pence. This one's a bit more cheerful. I find your early married life in a box, a well-worn account book, listing each item needed for your home. The ironing board, curtain rails, twin tub and carpet sweeper. All listed in your angular script. You never scrawled. You counted each coin, saved stamps, kept all sums in the margins, gave Dad his beer money. You boiled pig head into brawn, crossed the square to get pears a halfpenny cheaper. Darned, stirred jam, cut coupons, put on an extra layer. I throw my socks away. Let avocados go brown. Buy clothes left and worn. Leave too many lights on. Go overdrawn. I imagine your dismay, the pinched lip, as I only use a tea bag once. I take a sip and thank you. I recycle plastic, glass and guilt. I still have the ironing board. Wooden sticks wobble as I steam my son's school shirts. I can't get rid of it. It costs you 9 and 6. So this next one is more of a work one. It was during the pandemic and we had to learn to suddenly deliver therapy online, which obviously happens a lot now, but it didn't then. Virtual. When I first see the girl, she's uplighted by an iPhone, and all I can see are her sculptured cheekbones, long lashes hiding her eyes. She gives a sane performance, but beneath the makeup, her skin is written. When I talk with her dad, he is in an unlit car, bearded face shadowed. I'm reminded of the Ripper, blaming services for not helping his vulnerable daughter. When I listen to her mum, she tells me how he used to hide her shoes to stop her going to work, how she covered the bruises with fake smiles and foundation. Maid. She polishes your mirrors, her face disappears. She sucks up dust, dead flies, crumbs, slicks grease, breathes ash, licks handprints from doors, scrubs floors on her knees, scrapes limescale, mould, pulls hair from plug holes, bleaches piss stains, spits on your silver, arranges roses, takes the cash, crumples your smiley face, places the company card, relax, all done. Back in her flat, she lets her skin shed, falls asleep on an unmade bed. And this is the last one. Handle with care. I wrote it about my son when he was about 10. He's now 18. And he has special needs, but he's done incredibly well. But this was him then, at 10 years old. Handle with care. I like the feeling of popping bubble wrap, watching reflections ripple. I don't like noise of aeroplanes and can hear a sigh 2 rooms away. I like to draw in pencil but never paint. I love to be squeezed but not stroked. I love repetition, but don't you tell me anything twice. I love to rush but then stop for hours. I remember everything, but I forget what to do. I want friends, but don't have any. One day, I'll surprise this world. And he is. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ali. So we're going to take a quick break now, and then in about 10 minutes, we'll come back and we'll be revealing our wonderful winners. But thank you all so much for coming.
What good is all
I saw the light on the night that I passed by her window. I saw the flickering shadows of love on her blind. She was my woman, as she Ferrari with me in the wave, but in the morning. Do you still want me? Can I be honest? I still want your hands up on my body. You still make my heart beat fast. Ferrari with me in the wave, but in the morning. Do you still want me?
Hello everyone, thank you all so much for sticking around and for enjoying all that beautiful poetry with us. It was really nice for us to hear all those poems spoken out loud, so thank you for sharing them with us. And so, to be fair, Nas and I have decided to read a poem each before we announce the winners. So, as unprepared as I am, I'm going to read one of my poems that I feel like is the most related to time. I've not really written that much about time, you know, and I picked the theme, so clearly I'm doing a disservice to myself there. This poem's called In the Hands of Atropos. My soul is balanced between the blades, between the fingers, between the sisters whose hands peck like ravens' beaks that pluck the spoils of fallen threads, to catch the souls that fall between the blades, between the fingers, between the hands of three sisters that measure the worth of we poor souls whose lives exist in lengths of ribbon or thread or string, that catch on the broken nails, on shaking fingers, on reckless hands of wrinkled wrists that roll with the crisscross of cat's cradle, to twine our trembling souls between the blades, between the knuckles, between the crooks of fingers on hands, on wrists, entangled by the fragile souls that exist in strands of thread dyed red, by souls snipped between the blades, between hands of the careless crones who control our hearts and lungs and minds like a game of Jacob's ladder, pulled tight, too tight between the chipped nails of crooked fingers, of jerked hands and tangled wrists, holding the trembling blades, slipping blades, that nick the red thread of that one soul caught between the reckless hands between. Thank you. And now I get to introduce one of our wonderful judges. No, you read first and then we'll, yeah. Nasser Hussain, who's going to read for us as well before we do the prize giving.
Yeah, the theme of time is interesting to me as well. This poem is a bit of a stretch, perhaps, but time and, bless you, race form an interesting intersection for me. There's a kind of always, already thing going on in terms of the experience of time. Perhaps for me, perhaps for others. This is called Disorientation. It's for one of my favorite poets, Ian Williams. This disorientation. I get up in the racialized morning, put on some racialized music, eat a racialized breakfast, go for a racialized hot yoga session with racialized soap, take a racialized shower, read the racialized paper, the racialized orange juice is sour after the racialized toothpaste, the racialized train is late. The racialized conductor makes a hilarious racialized announcement. The racialized coffee cautions me that its racialized contents are hot. I put the racialized cup in the racialized receptacle. The racialized pavement is cracked. I dodge the racialized rush hour foot traffic, swipe my racialized staff card at the racialized door to my racialized office, begin my racialized pre-work rituals, look at the racialized clock, do a racialized mental calculation, racialized. In the racialized team meeting, we discussed the fact that racialized people do less well in our racialized organization. I feel racialized rage at the racialized fact that no one admits it's simply racialized bias. Have another racialized coffee, even though it might raise my racialized blood pressure. Mentally check out of racialized work. Racialized, idly scroll a racialized social media website, consider going for a racialized beer instead of a racialized meal for my racialized lunch. Forgot to mention the whole reason for reading these poems, and in the absence of Janet and Matthew, is that it's unfair for us to judge without judgment. So we put these poems in front of you. Please look up our colleagues' work, read them, and read one another in this fabulous anthology that's come out. So thank you for sharing your work with us, and it was a genuine honor and privilege to look at your work. So thanks.
Okay, so yeah, without further ado, I'm just going to go straight into it. And like Nas said, it was an absolute pleasure to read everybody's work. It was hard. It was really, really hard because everything was so beautiful and brilliantly written. But our third prize goes to At the Resort, Not Wanting a Baby by Amy Schofield. She's still here?
I have the intense pleasure of announcing our second prize winner. Yeah, in spite of an apparently embarrassing biographical note, can I invite Abby Nolan to collect her second prize gift bag for this year's Leeds Poetry Festival. Give it up for Abby.
Okay, I feel like everybody's probably feeling a little bit intense now. But there's only one prize left. It's first prize, and just want to say a massive congratulations to Christopher. If you can come up and accept first prize for Valentine's. Thank you everyone for coming and for celebrating this collection with us. If you haven't got, well, nobody's got their copy yet. Come up to the bookshop. Jack and I will be giving out the anthologies. If you haven't bought one yet, but you're really keen to get your hands on one, we've also got some for sale as well. Thank you all so much.
Yo, if you got a prize, come up stage, come up front. All right, top three, please. Chris, Abby, I'm sorry, why am I blanking on? Abigail? No, wait. Oh, no. Come up, come up, come up. Amy, sorry. Yeah, Chris, it's a photo op. Come up.